Email security, those two words can be super intimidating to a lot of people, especially real estate agents. And not only intimidating, but you might think it's not worth it. That's what big corporations need to do, or that's what my brokerage does. I pay my brokerage to make sure everything's secure. So I don't really need to do anything. Well, the answer may be different than you think. So we're going to be chatting about that today. There's a lot of noise around email security. And if you're part of the Follow Up Boss community or other CRMs or real estate groups on Facebook or masterminds, there's probably a lot of noise around all the regulations that Google's been updating and concerns about your emails all of a sudden not going to send and I'm going to get hacked and things like that. And other things and terms like that go over my head like DKIM, SPF, and DMARC, and your eyes probably glazed over. But it's actually really important. So, Alex, I'm going to say, teach it to me like I'm 5. Why are these regulations put in place? And why do we need to implement them and not ignore those regulations?
Thank you, Elena. Thank you very much. That's a great question, and that's the right start for our conversation. Indeed, I have dozens of real estate brokerages and teams going through my company every month, and they all have the same question. Why do we need that? And why do those big companies challenge us all the time? And I completely understand them. You're living your normal life, sending emails to people who subscribe to your newsletters many years ago, and you don't even sell anything to them, but rather keep them updated. And one day you hear that all your email traffic will be rejected or blocked if you don't implement DKIM, SPF, and DMARC policies on the email server. And you're like, what? Do I have an email server? I use FAB, and that's it. And from one perspective, from the solo agents and small real estate teams standpoints, it really does look like Google, Yahoo just put a spoke in the wheels, and now they have to find out how to navigate those issues. However, from another side, these implementations are a first step, the very basic, I would even say a tiny micro step towards their cybersecurity protection. So basically, those regulations tend to protect companies and people, those who send emails and who receive them from scams. And while these instructions all of us have received from Follow Up Boss, from MailChimp, and other systems will not protect us from cybersecurity risks, because this is probably just only a 5% of total measures you need to implement in your email server to stay protected. It will allow incoming email servers to filter the email traffic that looks suspicious to them and block it. And with these Google Yahoo regulations, it will now be much easier to filter those scam emails because all legitimate senders will have the necessary implementations of DKIM, SPF, and DMARC in place. So in other words, everyone has to confirm that legitimacy by these protocols in the DNS zone to ensure their emails will go through without being blocked. And this is actually something that's been around for a while already, since the year of 2014, when the DMARC protocol was released to the public to prevent emails from spoofing and phishing attacks.
Yeah, yeah, thank you for sharing. And for those watching, if you haven't already watched the other videos we've already done with Alex, we broke down in more detail about DKIM, SPF, and DMARC. So I'll include links to that below. So you can watch those where it's kind of email deliverability 101. This is a little bit more advanced. So pause this video if you haven't already watched those two. But in my opinion, this kind of seems unfair. Like, for real estate agents and myself, we're not sending spammy links or phishing links. There's only a small, well, maybe not small anymore, but there's only a certain percentage of people actually being scammers and spoofers. So
Yeah.
why are we being punished to have to do this with, surely there's another way with artificial intelligence for Google to track these types of things better, but why do we have to do it?
Yeah, so that completely makes sense, Lena. It's a valid point, but here's the thing. Historically, scamming tactics become more sophisticated each year, some of which are almost impossible to recognize, not to mention for people unfamiliar with them. So in some scenarios today, it's pretty challenging to distinguish a phishing email from a legitimate one. Can you imagine even my wife, who has heard a lot about these scamming techniques from me, almost got caught by a phishing message she received on her Facebook business page? So just think about this from this perspective. Every year, we store more and more sensitive information across our accounts on the internet. We have credit cards connected to Fallout Boss, Canva, and ChatGPT. Each of us has a cloud storage with Google, Apple, or Microsoft, where we store invoices, internal documents, databases, and personal information. Just try to remind yourself back in 2010, how many accounts had access to your credit card? I bet just a few. So, which is why scammers target this information using all possible ways and tactics. And one of the most common ones, actually one of the many, is spoofing. This is when bad actors with specific knowledge and access to the right tools can start sending emails from your email address. Not just one that looks like yours, but literally from your email address. And of course, they don't need to know your password for this. The
Yeah.
only thing you need, yeah, is just email address. They can take it from Google, from your social media profiles, and even from your website, and that's it. And this is where the new Google Yahoo regulations play their game, for which they were initially built, specifically that part with the DKIM and SPF implementation. DKIM is a digital signature that confirms to incoming email servers that your emails are legitimate. By implementing them, you give permission to the email infrastructures of those systems, such as Fallout Boss, MailChimp, or Constant Contact, to send emails on behalf of your domain name. And just to clarify things even more, when scammers send emails from your email address, those emails always lack a DKIM signature for the email infrastructure through which they go, because they can't prove they own your domain name since they don't even have access to your accounts. And now, thinking about all of this, you can understand why it's our responsibility to confirm that we own the domain, because this is the only way to show our email traffic is legitimate, that it's not someone else sending emails from our accounts, but it's we who are doing so.
Yeah, and it's definitely to our benefit of why these regulations are in place. It's not to punish you as a business owner or salesperson, it's to protect you from scammers spoofing your email. So to recap what Alex said, spoofing means that they are sending an email to people from your email address, or at least it looks like that, asking probably for credit card information or for wire information or things like that. I know that happened to me personally, not exactly like that, but I received an email just about a month ago. It looked like it was legitimately from Venmo. It said, it had the logo, it said from something at Venmo.com. So I was like, okay, because I usually look at the from. And I said, okay, well, it shows Venmo.com. It shows, and then the email said I have $15 from someone named Missy. I said, I don't know who a Missy. And before I clicked on the link, I expanded, you can expand like the from, and then that's where I saw the gibberish email address. So I always just, I double checked, I went directly to Venmo.com instead of clicking the link in the email. I do that a lot, even if I know it's legitimately from that company. I just go directly to the website. I'm like, let me log in and actually see this is real. But kind of similar to, what'd you say?
Just forward those emails to me and I will do the investigation for you.
Oh yeah, okay, thank you. I'll forward them to you. Yeah, and that's kind of the reason why Google and all these different companies enabled two-factor authentication. It's another layer of security to protect yourself from getting scammed. And just like several years ago when people started scamming people over the phone, now they're scamming people over email. So same concept there. But on the subject of spoofing and phishing, if someone does have DKIM set up, does that mean they are completely safe and protected from this?
Not really. Having only DKIM signature does confirm that you're a legitimate sender, which makes it less likely that your emails will be rejected or blocked by incoming email server. This is actually why DKIMs are important for better email deliverability. However, it does not guarantee that nobody will be able to send spoofed or phished emails on behalf of your email address. And to prevent spoofing and phishing attempts, you must enforce the DMARC policy under a strict compliance framework. Once you have the DMARC record on the email server set to the reject mode, every email that fails either DKIM or SPF verification will automatically be blocked and not delivered. And that's good. This is what every company needs to aim for. However, enforcing such a policy requires consistent monitoring of DMARC reports, analyzing sending IP addresses, the infrastructures through which emails are sent, and doing many other things. Because if you enforce a strict DMARC policy, and let's say you didn't know that someone in your team has accounts with street text or BumbBump, those emails will be completely blocked due to the lack of domain authentication with those systems. This is why you need to start with the monitor policy of the DMARC record, then set up email reporting tags and investigate the reports you receive from other servers that accept your emails to have a better understanding of what's going on with your emails on that side. Once everything is operating smoothly, then you could enforce the reject policy to prevent spoofing attempts.
Isn't this a little overkill though? Like, shouldn't this not happen that often? I mean, we're small businesses. Surely these scammers and spoofers don't do it to small people like us. Instead, they do it to companies like Venmo. So is it really something that we should be worried about if someone spoofing our email and sending an email from us?
Well, yeah, I currently monitor email security for a little over 90 brokerages, and approximately 30% of them are consistently under attack. And almost every time we notice an issue, it isn't because they found a phishing email sent from their domain and reported it to me. No, it's usually discovered through email deliverability issues. They notice their email open rates dropped from 40% to 15% in just a few weeks. Then their marketers perform a few tests and realize their emails are being flagged as spam. At this stage, I usually get involved in reconfiguring their email systems on the backend and connecting multiple tools to the email server to identify the problem. Often we find drops in domain reputation, and one common reason for this can be the distribution of phishing links from the domain. And this is why their emails are going to spam. Many people recommend setting up DKIM and SPF policies, and that's indeed a great advice. However, these measures are often seen as a temporary solution because having DKIM and SPF in place without DMARC policy set to the reject mode doesn't prevent spoofing and phishing. And every time scammers send emails on your behalf with phishing links, either people who receive those emails report them as spam, or email security software filters your emails as spam, or email servers filter your emails as spam. And that's why your domain reputation and email open rates drop. And then a long and boring recovery process awaits. So the key takeaway here is to remember that the more people in the industry think it's not about us or we are not interested for scammers, the more attractive the industry becomes to scammers. It's similar to our line of work. You offer FAB revamp services, others offer marketing services to agents, some sell homes. It's the same in their world. Some sell email spoofing solutions, others build phishing website, and some sell databases or credit card numbers. We conduct our businesses and they conduct theirs. It's all around us. Like bad guys steal cars, rob homes and banks, while the good guys chase them. But there are always victims.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So a lot of our conversation has been focused around spoofing and phishing. But besides those two things, is there really anything else we should be aware of? Like those two things alone can be overwhelming to talk about. Surely there's not anything else we should be aware of or concerned about.
Definitely. You cannot even imagine how many more tactics are out there. They can read your emails, alter the content of your emails, and hijack your email server. It's as if people are emailing you, but you never receive their emails. They can steal your domain, traffic, emails, run spam bombing against you, and redirect visitors from your website to a spoofed copy with a false information, among other things. For example, for many of us, sending email is just one click, send, and in a few seconds, it's there on the other side. But in fact, there are dozens of ways to steal or alter email content. Everything can be even stolen at the stage of transmitting from the web browser to the outgoing email server from which your emails are sent. If your network is compromised, if your email connection is unencrypted, if your website doesn't have an SSL certificate, or if your domain doesn't have a certificate authority authorization policy that specifies the authority that issued that SSL certificate for your website. Some of these tactics are easier to perform while others are more difficult. But the fact remains is that If your emails are sent unencrypted, during those few seconds it takes for your email to reach your prospect, your email can be read and its content changed.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, just a second ago, you mentioned sending emails to prospects and leads, specifically in the real estate space for real estate agents. Are there any real case scenarios you've seen or heard of in real estate, and how should we deal with those?
Yeah, yes. So there was a small broker, just a few people on the team, let's call them like Monica, who wanted to optimize their email server for better deliverability. After a few weeks of investigation, I discovered that Monica's emails were under a spoofing attack. There were about 100 emails per day being sent from their accounts without their knowledge. And this is pretty standard in real estate, so I blocked them without any hesitation. Even after the necessary implementations, I still saw multiple spoofing attempts, but since those emails no longer went through, their quantity quickly decreased. A few weeks later, after the storm has passed, Monica sent me a copy of an email that they received from a buyer, and everyone was pretty surprised. The email appeared as if Monica had reached out requesting a wire transfer, but in fact, it wasn't her. At first glance, it was Monica's email address. Same name, same profile picture, same email signature, same address, and even the phone number. But the domain was slightly different. Instead of .com, it had .ca, and it even redirected to Monica's .com website, but the email server was managed by scammers. Obviously, this was a case of domain spoofing, nothing sophisticated, but something nobody in real estate seems to know about. You choose a victim, you purchase a similar domain name that's difficult to distinguish from the legitimate one, set up email services with it, and start sending emails mimicking the victim. Do you know, this is why many companies such as banks, financial institutions, and insurance company own over 300 different variations of their domains. They do so just to prevent scenarios like that. It's expensive to own 300 or more domains across different top-level domains, but it's a part of their cybersecurity budget. According to the latest IBM cybersecurity report, the average cost of an attack is estimated as $4.5 million, while owning 300 domains would cost you around $5,000 a year. If they purchase a similar domain to yours, they can even steal your website traffic. It's expensive, but still possible. It's another case I have in my portfolio. So domains are not just your branding and marketing, they are also a crucial part of your cybersecurity.
Yeah, and scammers are getting smarter and smarter. I can't remember if I shared this story last time, but I'll share it again if I did. Maybe a few months ago now, I heard of a story of someone who she received an email from her boss asking her to wire funds from one account to another. And she was smart enough to know, I'm not just going to take that word for it. So she said, let's meet in person so I can verify that this is the case. I don't take wire instructions. And so the person responded saying, I'm out of town. Let's hop on a Zoom and I'll loop in some other coworkers, like let's just pretend their names were Alex and Elena and Chris. So she hops on a Zoom. She talks to the boss. Her other coworkers talk. She gets the confirmation that that was real. She sends the wire transfer and then realizes after the fact that they were scammers using artificial intelligence, and everyone else on the call was AI deepfake.
Wow.
Except her. And so she thought it was so real enough, and she knew everybody. She knew everybody in real life, but it was so real to her because they were able to pull content and train an AI for each person from content on videos online and things like that, that it sounded like them, it looked like them, they acted like them. And so she did it, and it was like a multi-million-dollar mistake because it was a very profitable, successful company, and she was following the steps, but it still was not real. So that's just mind-blowing me. It scares me so much. But
yeah,
in the topic of cybersecurity with email and domain, what would you recommend agents do to reduce that risk?
So the first and foremost step is to authenticate your domains with the systems that send your emails by implementing DKIM and SPF records. DKIMs are something you will receive from your email providers, and the SPF is something that you need to build yourself. It must include all servers through which your emails could be sent. Many say SPF is not as important as DKIM, but it actually is, because if you're under attack and the DKIM verification fails and SPF is missing, the DMARC policy won't be enforced, since your emails could be considered to originate from any server. If you build an SPF policy yourself, don't forget to set it up to the strict fail mode to prevent your servers from SPF reply attacks. The DMARC policy is critical, but it doesn't make sense if it doesn't contain a root tag, the email address to which DMARC reports will be sent. Encrypt your emails and their content with MTA, STS, and TLS reporting policies. This is a more complex process because it requires implementations in the website root directory. And if your website is hosted with the IDX service provider, you can forget about email security because they don't allow implementations in the website root directory, as they are afraid of the malware file will be imported in their system, which will infect all their system and affect negatively their clients. You might also want to purchase several domain names on popular top-level domains such as .com, .ca, and .co. It's also worth mentioning that it's not possible to stay 100% protected. The industry is growing, scamming techniques are becoming more and more sophisticated, and even large corporations like Microsoft have vulnerabilities. There was a pretty successful attack in January. Almost every few months, cybersecurity experts discover new types of attacks, such as SMTP smuggling in January or subdomailing at the end of February, which shows that today, having basic implementations in place and expecting to be fully protected is not enough. So when you're looking to make your organization more secure, you're obviously mitigating cybersecurity risk. But if someone is determined to steal your data, there will always be a possibility to find a loophole, something that has never been found before. And the SMTP smuggling case revealed earlier this year is proof of that. It's like if we had only Ford cars on the planet, which had been in production since 1982, and only this year it was discovered they have a brake system issue. It's unbelievable, but it's the internet and everything is possible here.
Yeah, I was just reminded just a week and a half ago, I was talking to our loan officer because me and my husband are considering moving and selling and buying. And he had mentioned, just as a heads up, that so here in Texas, we have something called counties, which are smaller areas of multiple cities in them. And he told me that our county, which is called Tarrant County, was attacked, and there's a ransom on it, but they're not going to pay the ransom. And so a lot of people are kind of in limbo, or things are taking a lot longer. They have to use pen and paper, and it's still that way. They're still demanding they pay this ransom, and they're not going to do it. So everyone is vulnerable, not just real estate agents, not just large corporations, but also local government businesses.
Yes.
So if all of the instructions that you just shared kind of sound like another language to people listening and watching, and they don't want to take the time to understand what you're saying, is there anyone who can help them and just say, please just do it for me? I don't want to mess it up. I don't even know what you're saying.
Yeah, definitely. Just send me the email and I'll get back to you within 24 hours and we'll start from there. Everyone needs
Yeah.
to be expert in real estate, and not only real estate, but it's true.
Is the best way to reach you at your website, sh.consulting?
Yeah, exactly. That's the
Okay.
best way to send me the email.
Okay, very good. Yep, for those watching, go to sh.consulting. There's a link in the description, and there's a contact form where you can reach out to Alex, and he is fast. Don't worry that your contact form is just going to sit in the abyss like a lot of other companies do, unfortunately. But thank you, Alex. I appreciate your time and all the value you bring. It's such a huge help for the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Elena. It was a pleasure to participate in this conversation. Thank you very much. And of course, there are email security protocols similar to the ones you have already heard about, DKIM, SPF, and DMARC, that need to be implemented. There are others like MTA, STS, TLS, RPT, SMTP/DA, NE, and more. In the real estate sector, this issue is huge. Even top brokerages like Coldwell Banker, Keller Williams, and eXp Realty, which everyone knows, have these problems. I have had many agents from these brokerages request assistance with their accounts, and after submitting multiple requests to their technology department, and even reaching out through my connection network, do you know how many responses I received? It always hurts to hear the truth.
Mhm.